Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kai, and welcome back to Warframe. Today, we will be taking a look at Baruuk, which is just in time for Baruuk Prime, because Baruuk Prime is releasing in 2 days. Now, this video was recorded on December 12th, and he is set to drop December 14th, which is a Wednesday, 2 days from this time. So I thought I'd make a bit of a preemptive video just to go over Baruuk and why you need to be really excited for his prime, and so that the second his prime drops, if you get him, you can come right back to this video and have a perfectly updated and new guide that shows you why he is so powerful. So let's go hop into the sim. Here we are in the simulacrum, and now we can do as we always do and go over Baruuk's abilities. So the first thing you might notice is that I've actually subsumed Pillage over his one. Baruuk's, I think it's called Elude, is not really that great of an ability because it promotes not attacking, and in a fast-paced game like Warframe, you're not really doing that. Now, you might be asking why use Pillage, because normally most Baruuk builds nuke duration, and Pillage really loves duration. Because if you are unaware, Pillage is an ability that its range scales with how long it lasts. Basically, Pillage travels 20 meters a second. So, the base radius is affected by range, at what radius it starts at. But its duration affects how far it goes, which means that at 2 seconds, Pillage will, have a 40-meter range, which I'm not sure, how far are they? 46? If I were to nuke my duration, it would only travel, if I had 1 second, it would only travel 20 meters, which would look like this, which is, a lot shorter. But, trust me, there are some things you can do to get around this. Obviously, you can build for more base range if you have less duration. And I actually think this is really great on Baruuk, but we'll get to that when we get over it. Now, the other effects of Pillage are actually really good. So, Pillage requires 400... Pillage actually does a lot of things for one ability. The main part of it being that it strips armor alongside shields. There are not a lot of abilities that do that, so this makes it a really great tool against Corpus. It's because it's Hildren's ability, and Hildren obviously uses shields as a energy pool instead of normal energy, so this ability is how she gets her shields. But on other frames, it still functions the same. Pillage starts at a 25% strip of armor and shields, and you need 400% power strength to full strip in one cast. That's a lot, not really reasonable for most frames. So with the armor removal changes in the Veil Breaker, most people just run around 200% power strength, which allows you to just double cast really quick and full strip, which is still really good. Obviously, it also grants shields to your Warframe. If you look in the top right, I am actually at 1500 shields. Let me come over here. Does this remove my shield? I think it does. Yeah, it does. If I come over to these enemies and cast Pillage, they pulse, and then when the duration runs out, all of their shields come to me. Pretty much 10 enemies is enough to get all of your, overshields back. Obviously, this is, better on frames with higher overshield caps, but most frames are just at 1500. Now, you can press it while it is still running early to cancel it and get your shields back. This just reduces the range and, gets you your shields back, which if you're using it for shield gating purposes is really nice. That is another thing. This ability is pretty much shield gating on demand, which makes your frame invulnerable, because if you're about to die, you can just roll and you're invulnerable. And if you see there, I have casted this ability 4 times on these enemies, so they are full stripped, which means they have no armor. Pillage also status cleanses you, which means you don't need to use Rolling Guard on any frames that are using Pillage. Baruuk's second ability is Lull. Now, Lull, if you look in the bottom right, is the ability that mainly erodes his restraint meter. Now, if I come over to these enemies, I am on a base Baruuk right now with absolutely no mods, and just cast Lull. You will see that these enemies now are put to sleep. This is just the base form of Lull. And in the bottom right, I have eroded some of my restraint, which gives me access to my 4th ability, which is an exalted melee that is really strong. Most Baruuk builds will actually nuke your duration, because it allows you to cast Lull a lot really fast and erode your restraint really quick. This also means that Baruuk really needs a lot of enemies to be able to use his 4th ability, because besides that, he's kind of just, he's just a meh frame. Obviously, his 2 and 3 are pretty good, but his 4th is what makes him so strong and why everybody likes him. So, if you only have, 5 or 10 enemies, you're not casting your lull enough to erode your restraint, and makes Baruuk not really good at anything besides like Steel Path Survival. But in Steel Path Survival, he is very, very good. Lull does do a couple other things other than CC enemies and obviously erode his restraint though. If I cast it on these enemies, other than it just initially affecting them, it resets their awareness level to nothing, so basically means that they lose, like they forget that you were ever even there. It also opens them up to melee finishers, which can be useful in some builds, but any damage to them will wake them up and they will be disoriented. Now, they will still be obviously unaware that you were ever there, so, you know, it makes Lull not a terrible ability for getting those high damage stealth multipliers. Baruuk's third ability is Desolate Hands. Now, Desolate Hands does a couple things, all of them being very, very useful. So, the main part of Desolate Hands is that on cast, you will do a short little animation and get these daggers that start orbiting you. These daggers give you damage reduction up to 90%, which caps out at 9 daggers. So you need 9 daggers on floating around your Baruuk to have that 90% damage reduction. You can have more than 9 daggers if you build strength. Most builds are around the 18 to 22 mark, but the damage reduction caps out at 9. The other part of Desolate Hands is that when you get near enemies, they will fly off and disarm them, while also eroding restraint. Obviously, this turns them into melee units. This is not a very, very useful part of his kit. It does about 1% or like 1.5% of his restraint erosion per enemy disarmed. And the main use of Desolate Hands is for the damage reduction. So you're not really building for really high range on Baruuk because you don't want these seeking out a lot of enemies because you don't want to lose them. Obviously, when you have more than 9 daggers, it's not a big deal, and you're not going to be recasting this a lot. The other fancy part of Desolate Hands is that you can share them with companions. So, if I come over here and equip my Vulpaphyla and spawn Desolate Hands, you will see that my companion gets a couple of daggers orbiting them too. Now, every ally can carry up to 50% of your modded number of daggers, so, you know, if you have 20 daggers, an ally can carry up to 10, and the damage reduction is still capped at 50%, even though they can carry more than 5 daggers. This also affects defense objects and targets, pretty much everything in the game. A really, really great ability for just mitigating damage. The daggers do also function the exact same way when they orbit allies, and will erode your restraint if your allies pick them up and they disarm enemies. Baruuk's fourth ability, and probably his strongest, one of the strongest abilities in the entire game actually, is Serene Storm. Now, as you can see here, this is an exalted melee weapon. I really cannot wait for Baruuk Prime, but the Desert Wind are his exalted melee weapon. Obviously, these are moddable as other melee weapons, but they are absolutely ridiculous. So, to access Serene Storm, you need to erode your restraint meter, because Serene Storm does not use energy. If I just cast this a couple times, obviously on lower duration Baruuk builds you can spam this much quicker, but pull out my Serene Storm. Now I get a melee that has ridiculous punch through, and I have no mods on my Baruuk. I am actually, my Desolate Hands, my Serene Storm is modded right now, but these do an absurd amount of damage, okay? Obviously, you need to erode your restraint to be able to get that long duration on your Serene Storm because it does not use energy. So, you're going to be wanting to cast that a lot. But in this form, you just murder everything. This ability is ridiculously fun and so, so good. Serene Storm also provides 25% damage reduction. When in the ability, you have to be actually using Serene Storm as the active weapon, and you cannot have either your primary or secondary out, and obviously replaces your melee weapon. This actually goes up to a damage reduction of 40% when you build for higher strength, but at base it is 25. This also stacks with Desolate Hands, 90% with 9 daggers, and damage reduction affects Overshield. So if you put Adaptation on Baruuk, and then, you know, an Overshield generating mod like Pillage or Condemn, you kind of just, like, can never die because you have such high DR on your Overshields and an instant refresh on them. It makes Baruuk invincible. But This is a build built around Serene Storm. So before we look at this, we need to talk specifically about Serene Storm and some of its caveats, because yes, there are some things about this ability that are not immediately, said to you, which is pretty much everything in Warframe. So Serene Storm, the Desert Wind, they're really, really strong. But they are also affected by stat sticks. Not in the way that things like Korra's Whipclaw or Atlas's Punch are, but in the way that the Gladiator set bonus affects the Desert Wind, which obviously gives crit chance per combo multiplier. Obviously, if you use the 3 Gladiator mods on a good utility melee weapon like the Praetos, which with its evolutions gives parkour velocity and sprint speed, this is nice to have, and these buff your Serene Storm, because you're kind of only going to be in this the entire survival or whatever you're doing, and it doesn't really matter what you're using here. But the thing about this is that it's been like this for a little while, where if you build combo on your, actually, I need to rotate my shirt real quick. If you build combo on your stat stick, and then you come over and you come into your Serene Storm, there are 2 different versions of Serene Storm. Let me rotate my shirt a little bit. There are the wind waves that come off of it, and there is the direct melee contact that you can make with your fist to enemies. You look here, that was a lot of red crits. I'm like, that is because we were being affected by the set bonus, and obviously I have Sacrificial Steel on. Now, these red crits will stay forever if you do not make melee contact with an enemy, because to build combo on Serene Storm, if you make melee contact with an enemy, you will see that you lose all of that built up combo, because you start to build combo with your Serene Storm. And obviously this is still really, really strong. As you can see, it's still demolishing these enemies, but we want to stay at the 12x stacks on our Praetos. I was even at 2x stacks right there, so I was getting a bit of a buff to my Serene Storm. How do we do this, though? Because we do not want to be able to build combo at all on our Serene Storm. It's hard to build combo in the first place because they are so strong, and you can only build combo on the direct contact of fist to enemy. These wind waves, as you can see here, don't build combo, but if I walk up and punch, it does. So, how do we do that? Well, let me go show you. Introducing the Melee Guidance Aura mod. This reduces combo duration for yourself by 6 seconds and increases combo duration for allies by 12 seconds. All that this means is that when you come over to your Desert Wind and look at your combo duration, you have -1 combo duration. You can't build any combo if your combo doesn't last at least 1 second. So this means that if we come over to our Praetos, which does have a combo duration of 15 seconds, which gets boosted by Naramon, and the Power Spike trait, melee combo counter, now decays while out of combat by 5 every few seconds instead of depleting completely. You need to run this on Baruuk, by the way. Don't use this if you have a Death Wish. This means that we can build up to 12x on our Praetos, go into our Desert Wind, and punch enemies directly with our fists, and not build combo, which gives us those permanent, juicy red crits, which, I'm sure everyone really likes. But with that out of the way, we can take a look at the rest of the build. So, Baruuk likes really, really high strength because of his Serene Storm augment. Desert Wind is now granted plus 250% status chance that does scale off strength. Just this augment and 262 strength gives 655% status chance, which coming over to Serene Storm puts us well over 100%. Moving on, this also has it change its damage type to match enemy weaknesses, which means that even if my Desert Wind right now are modded for heat corrosive, I go up to a Corpus and they have shields and punch them, it's going to auto modify its damage to magnetic, or other enemies are going to be modified to toxin. It basically just means that this is kind of like Excalibur's Chromatic Blade, but just better in like every way possible. This augment makes his Serene Storm so ridiculously strong that I don't know like what Baruuk build that actually kills things doesn't use this. But rest of the build, I have adaptation in here. Okay, adaptation It's obviously not max rank. I could max rank it. I just haven't because there's no reason to, because you still get the same 90% DR. Just takes a little longer to build up. Adaptation stacked with the 90% from here and the 40% from here makes Baruuk with Pillage invincible, because Pillage grants overshields and DR does affect overshields. You will never die with this build. Like, seriously, you will never die. Now, the other thing you might notice, though, is that we are at 13% duration. That's because we are using Transient Fortitude and Fleeting Expertise. Fleeting gives us ability efficiency, which is necessary because we're using Blind Rage. And Transient gives us more strength, which does nuke our duration a little bit. This is not bad, though. Desolate Hands and Serene Storm are not affected by duration. Pillage is, in a large way. So is Lull. The way the duration affects Lull is actually really good, because it means that you can spam cast Lull to erode your restraint really fast. And obviously with 190% range coming from Overextended, which does get rid of some of our strength, but having this high range is nice. And also you don't need, like, this would bring us to 320, and this is just not necessary. Like, this amount of damage, you will never need this much. So Overextended gives us range, which allows us to affect a lot of enemies with Lull to erode our restraint really, really fast. Obviously, the extra range is not great on Desolate Hands, but only 11 meters is not bad, considering that there are 20 meters of range on Serene Storm. Everything will be dead before it even gets near you. Now, Pillage. Pillage, at 0.25 seconds of duration, expands for 5 meters. At 190 range, though, it starts at 15 meters, which means that Pillage, its entire range is 20 meters. You also have 20 meters of range on your Serene Storm. This also allows you to really, really quickly refill your overshield and strip enemies. Because we are above that 200%, it only takes 2 Pillage casts to full strip enemies. So, full strip of all of these enemies. That's really fast. Other Pillage builds, when you need to reset your shield gate, a lot of them just have it where you press and then press it again to cancel out its long duration to get your shields fast. This one is, I honestly enjoy using Pillage like this, because the really fast cast to just refresh your entire shield gate, it honestly suits me a little bit better than running really high duration Pillage. It can affect a lot of enemies, but you don't get your shields that fast if you're not, like, uncasting the ability. So this is really, really strong. Obviously, it makes your guns really good, but we're going to be in Serene Storm the whole time. Serene Storm does so much damage that this isn't needed, but, like, it's there, and why not use it? It's just adding on top of the meme of Baruuk being invincible and doing so much damage. The Arcanes on this build are Arcane Energize and Strike. Arcane Energize is on a lot of frames. 150 energy on a pickup every 15 seconds is a lot. Mine's only rank 1. I do not have any energy problems. You certainly won't if you have a maxed out Arcane Energize. Strike, though, this is one that you should really, really try to max out, because attack speed is everything with Baruuk and his Serene Storm. You don't really need to build for that high strength, because if you're attacking so fast, and, you know, if you have 2 attacks that hit for 100 damage, or you could mod for ridiculous strength and they hit for 400 and they hit for 201, or you could just do those, you know, like, you understand, more attack speed is more damage, which is more kills. Mine's only rank 2. At rank 5, you get plus 60% attack speed, which is phenomenal. But even just having, like, a rank 1 or 2 of Arcane Strike is really, really great for Baruuk. Now, in your Exilus slot, personally, I would recommend using Power Drift. Obviously, if you want to use Prime Sure-Footed or anything in here, that's very possible, but I don't really use Prime Sure-Footed on anything. I don't find myself getting knocked down that much if I'm paying attention. But regardless, use whatever you want in your Exilus. Nothing makes or breaks it in this slot. Moving on to our Desert Wind. Now, I already said you need to be on Nerimon, so use Nerimon. But Desert Wind itself is modded like a lot of other melee weapons. We go for ridiculous crit. Now, there are actually 2 variations here, though. Prime Pressure Point at max gives 165 melee damage, base melee damage. The Desert Wind does so much damage that base melee is kind of its most lacking stat. There used to be a bug with the, I think it was the Naira mods. I don't have any. the Naira mods that only affect slam damage, affecting all damage, and giving just you a plus 300% base damage on the Desert Wind. Obviously, that doesn't work anymore. So, you have two options here. With the Primed Pressure Point and Sacrificial Steel combo, obviously, if this is maxed out, it'd be 220%. That works pretty well. But if you were to use Sacrificial Pressure, that would push your crit chance to somewhere around 187.5. This means that you don't need to go into your Praetos as much to reset your combo duration on them, because you only need above 9x combo to be hitting reds all of the time with your Serene Storm. If you do not use Sacrificial Pressure to combo with Sacrificial Steel here, the combo counter only has to decay to around, I think, 10 for you to need to go back in if you want to be hitting consistent reds. Is that a big deal? Not really. I like reds all the time, and I'm not bothered by having to turn this off and hit a couple enemies and then turn this back on every 2 minutes or so. If you build for Sacrificial Pressure and Steel, you are going to need a number forma. It is impossible to get out of this build without one, so just be aware of that. But you will only have to go into your Praetos every couple of minutes rather than like 2 minutes, around 5. Now, I am modding for Heat and Corrosive. This is just to deal with those armor targets, because the damage adaptation on Reactive Storm does take a second to kick in. It is not instant, so being able to have the instant damage with Heat and Corrosive is nice against armor targets. And then we build for some crit with the Organ Shatter. I have Volcanic Edge here. Personally, I actually do recommend you use the, where is it? The Gladiator Might mod here over Volcanic Edge. The heat is not very necessary here. This gives you more crit damage, which is great because you're hitting reds. I just didn't want to forma my Desert Wind again because Baruuk Prime is, again, you know, dropping in 2 days. Why put a forma into Baruuk this close to his Prime drop? So, over Volcanic Edge, use Gladiator Might. And then Quickening and Berserker Fury are to get that attack speed. Kills are a joke, so it's not like you need to use Fury or Primed Fury. And that is the build for Desert Wind. So, if we just come to these enemies real quick, and we'll just... Actually, we're going to kill these guys very fast. Alright, let's get some more spawned in, and just go over what the rotation is like for Baruuk. I think I left 2 over here. I did. There they go. And here we go. This is without even using Pillage to armor strip. We're just going to cast Desolate Hands. We're going to hit them with our lull. And we're going to wait a little bit. Hit them with our lull again. Restrain more. Pop these. Now this is what it looks like without any combo built up. Kills them really, really quick. I know these aren't Steel Path enemies, but that's kind of what it looks like. But, if we come back to these enemies and with our Praetos, build up some combo. And let's just erode our restraint real quick one more time and get back into our Serene Storm. I mean, isn't that just gorgeous? Like, you can't tell me you've ever seen a more beautiful thing than just so many red crits just flying all across your screen. And it is impossible to lose them. Honestly, this frame is just, like, just fun. Going around in this melee, it just feels good. That is the Baruuk build, though. And the one final thing I might actually mention is that I am using a Panzerwolfenpfeiler, other than the fact that it cannot die, so you get the constant effects of vacuum, because the DE needs to rework pets so they can't die, please. But besides that, it does prime enemies with Viral, which is nice for the damage multiplier on your Serene Storm, but it doesn't really need it. So let's go hop in this Steel Path, and I will just show you what some laid-back chill gameplay on Baruuk looks like, because he literally can't die. And, you know, I'm at 11x combo still. Like, oh, this build is so absolutely wild, and I cannot wait to do it with this Prime. Alright, I forgot to do my little intro, but here we are in the mod, the Steel Path, on the Void. So, we're just going to cast our Desolate Hands, and then we're going to do a little quick cast of Pillage, and then pop our lull, and then, I mean, you know, let our adaptation build up. We're already, like, not taking any damage. But let's go into here, and just start, killing enemies. So, you know, this is all, like, this is fine. Like, we are chilling. But let's get out of it, actually. Let's go with our Kratos. Real quick with our Kratos. Build that up. And here's where the fun begins. Just infinite red crits. Without even trying. The only thing you need to actually pay attention to on this build is your restraint meter. That erodes so fast, or that erodes so fast with your lull that it's not even a big deal. The damage is so absolutely absurd, and like adaptation stacking onto your overshield paired with the DR from Desolate Hands and your fourth makes you functionally immortal. Like, these are Steel Path bullets not doing anything to me. If you had a maxed out Arcane that is literally one of like the most satisfying things in this entire game. Seriously. Yeah, wow. I'm not even like... I'm just mashing E. But if you had a maxed out Arcane Strike, throwing out these combos even faster than you already are, just like crazy. And I mean, I'm just trying out like, you know, the blocking combos and stuff here, because they just look cool. The animations are done really well. That is a really far range one. Wow. Jesus. Whew. That one demolishes. But even just like the neutral forward combo and the holding W combo are really, really strong. And you know, if you feel like you're gonna die, which you won't, you just cast Pillage. Let's wait until an Acolyte spawns so I can show you what Baruuk does to Acolytes. Alright, an Acolyte hasn't even spawned yet, and I just like this just neutral blocking combo is so strong and has so much range. Like the animation for it is really cool. I just like thought I'd show you guys. And then obviously, honestly, this one doesn't seem as strong, but like I think I might have to actually come out. Oh yeah, let me come out of my Kratos and just build up my combo again. Oh wow, what a, you know, problem that was. Look at those numbers. Alright, this Acolyte's about to get fucked up. Oh, it is violence, actually. That's not phenomenal. That's actually really not good. Okay. But he's gonna still get fucked up. We're just gonna have to hope that he doesn't... Yeah, you know what? If he's just gonna keep doing that. Okay, you know what? That was really, really simple. I wasn't even at threat of dying, because even though I didn't have my abilities up, adaptation was fully stacked, and I was never going to lose my overshields. Y'all can see how strong this is. I don't even really need to do much more demonstration for you guys. Bing, 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 bing. Yo, that neutral combo is so fun. And the spin lift attack is also really good. You can just kind of spin to win with Baruuk. Bing, 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 bing. Yeah, that's the build, everybody. Oop, almost died there, but actually not going to, because Baruuk never dies. Yeah. We're just gonna waltz on over to extraction while I do my outro. Hopefully they're not too loud and annoying, but yes, that is the Baruuk video. I hope you guys enjoyed this and have found yourself a Baruuk build to use when Baruuk Prime drops, because as you can see, this is ridiculously strong. So like, you know, maybe come back to this video and give it a like when Baruuk Prime drops, or just give it a like now. That also works. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for the endless support. I am so close to hitting 1,000 subs. With the current growth that I've had, I will hit it by 2023, which is a crazy, crazy sentence for me to say, because like I started I started November with 100 subs. And to have this many of you guys here in the comments saying that you like my builds, giving criticism that I will very, very valiantly take. I am just, I'm enjoying this and I'm happy to be doing this. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.